The 45-day clock has officially hit zero. On April 29th, I did an audit right here on this channel about the invisible lag between the Persian Gulf and your local gas station. I warned you that the American consumer was living on a ghost price, a temporary buffer of cheaper oil that was purchased back in February before the Strait of Hormuz effectively became a war zone. Well, look at the board today. Today is Sunday, May 3rd, 2026, and that buffer has officially run out. The national average for gas just spiked to $4.45, basically $4.45. In states like California, regular is already sitting at $6.10, and diesel, the literal lifeblood of every truck moving food to your grocery store, is pushing a staggering $7.50 in some hubs. The mainstream news is calling this unforeseen volatility, but there is nothing unforeseen about it. This is simple logistics. It takes exactly 45 days for a supertanker to move from the Middle East to the U.S. East Coast. The ships that just cleared the docks this morning are the first wave carrying the massive physical premium that spiked back in March when the blockades began. While the paper traders on your TV were staring at a screen telling them oil was stable at $100, the physical market, the guys who actually own the barrels, were already paying $140. That $40 gap is finally being baked into your commute and your cost of living. And don't let the talk of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve fool you. We've already awarded 80 million barrels in emergency exchanges, which covers barely 8 days of the global supply hole created by the Hormuz closure. We are essentially using a garden hose to try and put out a forest fire while the last tankers of cheap oil disappear in the rearview mirror. This isn't a temporary spike. It's a structural wall that the U.S. just walked into. If you want to understand the oil math that governs your wallet for the rest of this year, you need to see the audit I did last week. I've attached that original video to the end of this update since y'all didn't want to look at it before. But now that the price at the pump is staring you in the face, maybe the math will finally start making sense. There are two prices for oil. You've only ever been shown one of them. The number they flash on your TV every night, the one with the little green or red arrow, is a ghost. It's a financial abstraction. It is not what the world is actually paying for crude oil right now. Not even close. There is another price, a physical price, the one refineries pay when they need actual barrels delivered to a specific dock on a specific day. Right now, that number is so much higher than what you're seeing on your screen that the fundamental math of the global economy is starting to fracture. We're going to audit that gap today. Because while the news talks about stable markets, your grocery bill is telling you a truth they aren't ready to admit. I'm Systematic Audit. Let's get into it. When you see oil reported on the news, you're looking at the futures market. It's a promise to buy oil later. It's paper. Traders, hedge funds, and algorithms bet on these numbers. They move based on tweets, interest rate rumors, and general market sentiment. But you can't run a truck on sentiment. Then there is the physical market. This is where the crude meets the refinery. This is dated Brent. Actual barrels in a hull headed to a dock. In a functioning world, these two prices stay within cents of each other, connected like a rubber band. If you think the paper price is the absolute truth, look back at April 2020. On that day, the paper price for West Texas Intermediate went to negative $37 a barrel. According to the screens, the market was literally paying people to take oil away. But did you get a check when you filled up your tank? Of course not. That's because the physical market, the guys with the actual barrels and the actual storage tanks, never went negative. The paper market was broken because traders had nowhere to put their promises. The real world remained expensive. That was your first warning that the screen and the street are two different places. In February of this year, the impossible happened. The Strait of Hormuz effectively closed. This isn't just a shipping lane, it's the jugular vein of the global energy system. 20% of the world's supply vanished overnight, 10 million barrels a day. To put that in perspective, the entire United States consumes about 20 million barrels a day. We effectively lost half of an America's worth of oil from the global pool. When that much supply disappears, the paper traders get scared and freeze. But the refineries, they panic. Look at this canyon. The paper market, the one on your TV, is hovering around $100. It's elevated but manageable. But the actual price refineries are paying has surged past $140 in Europe. In Asia, Dubai crude spiked to $260. At $260 a barrel, the fuel inside a single VLCC tanker is worth more than the skyscraper the traders are sitting in. A ship in the ocean is worth more than a city block, yet the news is telling you everything is stable. Why the gap? Because a futures trader can wait, a refinery cannot. A refinery is a machine that dies if it stops. Restarting a shutdown refinery can cost $50 million and take a month. They must buy. At any price. That is survival, not speculation. Here's the part the drill more crowd doesn't tell you. Oil isn't just oil. It's chemistry. There are two main factors: API gravity, which is how heavy it is, and sulfur content, which is how sour it is. Most of the new oil we find in the US is light sweet. It's great for making gasoline. But the world doesn't just run on gasoline. It runs on diesel. Diesel is what moves the food. Diesel is what moves the medicine. And to make diesel, you need heavy, sour crude, the kind that comes from the Middle East, Russia, and Venezuela. The American refinery system was built decades ago to process that heavy, dirty stuff. We are currently in a grade gap. The paper market treats all oil like it's the same. But in the physical world, the heavy crude needed for diesel is becoming a black gold rarity. When the Strait of Hormuz closed, it didn't just cut off oil. It cut off the specific chemistry required to keep the global supply chain moving. You can have all the light, sweet crude in Texas, but if you can't make diesel, the trucks stay parked. So how is the TV price staying so low? It's called storage buffering. The world keeps about 90 days of oil in various warehouses, tanks, salt caverns, and tankers at sea. When a supply shock hits, the paper market looks at the total warehouse levels and says, "We're fine, we have 90 days left." But the physical market looks at the flow rate. It's like having a giant water tank, but a tiny, clogged straw. The paper market is betting that the clog will be fixed before the tank runs dry. The physical market is watching the water level drop and realizing that the people at the front of the line, the Asian refiners, are already starting to fight over what's left. Oil doesn't teleport. It takes roughly 45 days for a tanker to move from the Persian Gulf to the US East Coast. Asian refiners, Japan, China, South Korea, are the closest to the source. They felt the price shock in February. Europe felt it in March. The US is the last stop on the line. Because we are geographically further away, we are currently living on oil that was purchased and shipped before the worst of the physical price spike. We are walking toward a wall that the rest of the world has already hit. When those 45-day-old contracts run out, the ghost price on your TV won't matter. Only the physical reality will. Watch the shipping insurance. If you want to know the real price of oil, look at what it costs to insure a tanker in a war zone. Those rates haven't just risen, they've gone vertical. When insurance costs more than the ship itself, you aren't in a stable market. You're in a collapse. The government is tapping the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, the SPR. They've released 80 million barrels since the conflict began. On the news, they say this is stabilizing prices. Let's do the audit. We are missing 10 million barrels a day from global markets, The 80 million barrels we released covers exactly 8 days of that shortfall. You cannot fix a 10 million barrel a day hole with an 8-day supply. It's like trying to put out a forest fire with a garden hose. It looks like you're doing something, but the heat isn't changing. Worse, the SPR is being drained of its best sweet crude, leaving us with a safety net that is thinner and sourer than it has ever been in American history. We are trading our long-term security for a few weeks of lower ghost prices on the news. This isn't a trading story, it's your story. When a refinery pays $140 for physical crude, that cost moves downstream. It's the diesel in the truck that delivered your milk. It's the jet fuel for the package on your porch. It's the plastic in your medical supplies and the fertilizer for the grain. The TV shows you $97 and calls it a crisis. The physical market is at $140 and climbing. Every dollar of that physical premium is currently being baked into your cost of living. You just don't see the label. You just see prices that don't make sense. Now they do. The price of oil you see every day is a ghost. It's a number on a screen designed to keep the markets calm while the physical world burns. The physical market doesn't lie because it can't. It's supply and demand stripped of the politics, the paper promises, and the government messaging. Tonight, when you see that $97 number on the news, don't get angry. Just smile, because now you know you're looking at a ghost, and ghosts can't pump gas. Before you click away, here is your audit for the week. 1. Stop watching the WTI ticker. Look for dated Brent or physical spot prices. 2. Watch the diesel crack spread. If refineries are losing money making diesel, they'll stop making it. That's when the real shortage starts. And 3. Check the tanker charter rates. If the ships stop moving, the world stops moving. The truth isn't on the ticker, it's on the dock. Do your own audit.